tomorrow. Yeah. What am I gonna go? 4.3.
I swear, whenever I hear the voice, like I can recognize his voice.
It's on the paper.
Oh.
I don't need how.
What?
My eyelash was just showing on the paper.
What? Like people actually sleep on Khan Academy. It helps me so much.
I used it for the PSATs, and I feel like I had guessed on every question of the PSATs. But
It's kind of how you just feel in general when you leave something
Well,
like
and then
that.
some of the problems, like you had to write in your own. I was like, I don't know how to do this.
I put 7 when I didn't. Really?
Yeah.
I put 7 too if I didn't know it.
No,
But I got one that was a weird looking fraction. I was like, that looks right.
Yeah.
This was in the notes video, but I'm gonna say it again because it will not fail that somebody will get factoring wrong, even though there is never an excuse to do so.
Because you check it or something?
What if you check it wrong?
Well, then there's your issue.
Then you probably should have studied more. There's never an excuse to get factoring wrong because you can always foil
Oh, I know how to do that.
to check your signs. Because I will say, most commonly the issue is signs when it comes down to factoring.
I mess up my signs a lot though. Don't agree.
You said it.
Hmm.
Am I supposed to say
How do
no?
that's how I feel when I agree with you and you're like, Ethan, I'm agreeing.
That's what I said something the other day, and Kenny was like, "You can't say that," and I was like, "You just did." And he was like, "That doesn't mean you should agree with me." It's like rude. All right, so just factoring in general, okay, if you have, let me find one. Something like r squared plus 2r minus 63. Okay, now this is the most general form of factoring. The slightly harder form will be 4.4, which we may get, probably won't get before Christmas break, which is okay. That'll be a good review when we come back then.
Are we going to spend a few days reviewing for, like...
The exam? Yeah, that's why I'm saying I'm not sure.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how long this one takes.
There's going to be a quiz on Monday, and then I need to see. I can't remember if y'all have had 1 or 2 tests this quarter. Then that will depend if we end up getting another test.
Do you make the exam?
Yeah.
Don't make it super duper hard. Make it medium
I don't.
difficulty.
Yeah, don't put a lot of fractions on it.
I actually make it pretty easy.
Miss Pat doesn't do essays on hers because she's the one who graded her. I'm like, oh.
Most of the exams are just like easier than tests and quizzes that
Yeah,
they
because
take.
teachers are just done by the time.
Her essays are easy. And she uses a bunch of fancy words. And she's like, good job.
All right, so basically, I'm going to go ahead and show you this. It's called the arch method, okay? This doesn't really matter until you get to the next section, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of introduce it now. Basically, whatever number's in front of here, you multiply by this number, okay? And then we're going to be looking for factors that give us, that add or subtract to give you this middle term, okay? So there's a 1 in front of here, so we don't have to worry about anything in this chapter. This, you can ignore the arch method for right now. That'll come in, or not this chapter, next section. Okay, so basically what we're going to do is we're going to find factors of negative 63 that give me 2, okay, when I add or subtract them together. So what I like to do is prime factor the number that I'm dealing with unless I see right away, like, I've done factoring long enough that I can see right away without having to do anything what this is going to break down into. But I'm going to show you my thought process if I don't know what it is off the top of my head. Okay, so you're going to prime factor this. So how do we prime factor?
So you... I know how to do it. I don't know how to explain it.
So what are 2 factors of
9 and
63?
7.
9 and 7. Okay. Can 7 break down any farther?
No.
Can 9 break down any
Yeah.
farther? To what?
3.
3 and 3. Okay. So then what I do is I'm going to check different options to figure out what numbers when added or subtracted give me positive 2. But I have to remember that this is negative, so one of the numbers is going to have to be negative. Okay? And it will matter which one because this one's positive, okay? So what I'll do is I'll look at, okay, I'll say, okay, 3 and 7 and then 3. So that's 21 and 3. There's no way that's going to give me 2, so forget that. Well, my only other option is to do 3 and 3 and then 7. So that's 9 and 7. Well, I know 1 needs to be negative. 9 minus 7 is 2. So that middle term is going to be, so it's going to be r squared plus 9r minus 7r minus 63. Okay, so basically we're replacing this middle term with 2 separate things when we factor it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to group these together and we're going to pull out the greatest common factor of each of the two, like each of the parts. So with r squared and 9r, what is the thing they have in common that I can take out? R.
What? Oh, that was a number.
No, okay, yeah, sorry. It can be a variable as well.
Oh.
All right, so out of this one, I can take out an r, which is going to leave me with r plus 9 inside. Okay, and then over here, what can I take out?
7.
-1. Or
Negative
Okay,
7.
so negative 7. So then that's going to give me r plus 9. Okay, these two things have to match. If these don't match, something is wrong. Okay, so that's another clue. If these aren't the same, something's wrong. Okay, so then whatever's outside, so this r and this negative 7 are going to go in another parentheses. So it's going to be r minus 7. And then because this is the repeated factor, I copy this one down. And so this is that factored out.
It's not too complicated. But I mean,
It's not, it's just different.
Oh wait, so since the how did we get to the r minus 7? R plus 9?
So after we pulled, whatever we pulled out, the stuff that's left is going to make one parentheses. That's one factor. You just combine them together. And then the stuff that's inside, you copy it down once because it's like, because of
Okay.
Where'd the exponent go?
where you factored. So we've simplified it down. So now when I was talking about there's never an excuse to get it wrong, then what we can do is we can go back and FOIL it. So r times r is r squared. R times 9 is 9r. Negative 7 times r is negative 7r. Negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. And then simplify that. R squared plus 2r minus 63 matches what we started with. So then that tells you that you're right. Okay, now we'll obviously do more examples, but I'm going to go through. There's 2 special types of factoring that you'll need to recognize. Okay, sometimes I'll ask you to tell me what special type it is. And so I'm going to review those. So difference of squares. Special factoring patterns. All right, so a difference of squares is when you start with a problem that is something like a squared minus b squared, okay? The key here is difference, meaning I'm subtracting, and then both of these things being something that is a square, okay? This factors into, you don't even have to show any work, you don't have to do anything special. It's just, you know this special pattern, and every single time it is equal to this. A plus b times a minus b. Now, you can always go back and FOIL to check and verify that it's right. Okay, so I'm going to show you here what this would end up giving me. So a times a is a squared. A times negative b is negative ab. B times a is positive ab. b times negative b is negative b squared. The negative ab and the positive ab cancel, leaving you with a squared minus b squared. Okay, so that's why that special type is how it is. Now, a common thing that people don't see is when there's an x squared here and it says minus 1. Would you agree that 1 is equal to 1 squared?
Yes. Wait. It is.
Well, the negative one becomes a positive one, so it's a different number, right?
But it's just the number that's being squared. The sign's not with it.
Sign doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Okay, so if you see a 1 here, this is still a difference of squares. This is factoring into x plus 1, x minus 1. Okay, when there's a 1 here, a lot of people get thrown off by that. Okay, but 1 is equal to 1 squared. Okay, and that's also equal to 1 cubed and whatever, because that'll come up in a later section as well when we get to stuff with cubes, which we have a little bit, but. All right, so that's one special type. The other special type is the perfect square trinomial. So this one, a little harder than the difference of squares, but still easier than actually having to factor. This has two possible forms that it can take on. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. And that's equal to a plus b squared. And then the other option is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared, which is equal to a minus b squared. Okay? Now, notice the difference in this bottom one and this one. Okay? This one, the whole thing is being squared. This one, each individual piece is being squared. Okay, so make sure you make note of that difference. What this is telling you, okay, if you're going the other direction or you're wanting to check your answer afterwards, okay, we can split this one out into a plus b times a plus b. Okay, and then we can FOIL it to check. So a times a squared, a times b, so plus ab, b times a plus ab, b times b plus b squared. ab plus ab is 2ab, so a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, most of the time, the a squared is going to be your variable. Okay, occasionally they'll give you a problem that's like backwards. That's fine, it doesn't matter. Your b squared, again, that could end up being something like a 1. Okay, so make sure you visually see that. Okay, but essentially your b, let's suppose your b shows you a 9. Okay, then let's say that spot shows you a 9. That's actually giving you a 3 squared. So a lot of times I'll rewrite my number as whatever it is squared. Okay, or if it's 16, I'll rewrite it as 4 squared so that when I go to write it in this form, I know what I'm dealing with. Okay, this bottom one, the only difference is if the sign on your second term is negative, the sign in the middle of that one is going to be negative. Okay, so let's work through a couple examples and then we'll obviously do a little bit more with it tomorrow because we won't finish it all today. But this is something that's really, really important that you know how to factor, so we'll spend a little bit more time with it. That's why I said I don't know that we'll get to the next section. The only thing that the next section adds is a number in front of the x squared. So, all right, let's start with number 4. X squared minus 7x plus 10. Okay, so remember, I'm looking at, there's nothing in front of the x. Okay, always get in the habit of looking and seeing if there's something in front of the x. This section, there won't be, but always look just to be safe. Okay, so then I'm looking at 10. I need factors of 10 that give me negative 7. Okay, now, because this is a positive 10, two numbers being multiplied together, okay, to give me a positive, but that give me this sign to be negative, both numbers are going to have to be negative. Okay? So, what are factors of 10?
2 and 5.
Okay, 2 and 5. Okay, occasionally I will tell you something as simple as like 1 and 10 might be your factors. Okay, so it's always good to look at those two, but a lot of times it is going to actually be something broken down. Okay, so 2 and 5 add up to give me 7. Since I need it to be negative, I'm going to make both of them negative. So I'm going to have x squared minus 2x minus 5x plus 10.
Does it matter how you put the 2x and the 5x?
So when we get to ones that have a number in front of the x squared, it will matter. Well, I say it matters. It does because you're going to be pulling stuff out because you know how like I'm getting ready to group these and I'm going to pull out the greatest common factor. They typically will match better with one or the other. And so if you don't line them up correctly, but sometimes it's trial and error. It's stick them in and be like, oh, that's not right. And then you flip them. Now, it technically most of the time will work either way. But like if I had a 6, well, we'll save that for next section. This section, it doesn't matter. So what is the biggest thing I can pull out of this first part?
X.
So it's going to be x times x minus 2. What about this?
Negative 5.
Okay, it's going to be negative 5, and here's why. Pulling out a negative 5 gives me negative 2. Remember, these two parentheses have to match. So had you just told me to pull out a 5, I would have had negative x plus 2. These then wouldn't have matched, so I would have had to go do something else. Okay, so that's the way that you can see if you've pulled out the correct thing, which is where I'm saying sometimes it matters because they won't, like next section, because they won't always match if you don't have it lined up correctly. So the stuff that's outside gets put together, so x minus 5 times x minus 2, and you're done. Okay, now again, you can FOIL to check. I'm not going to FOIL to check most of them while we're doing this, but in your homework and stuff, as you're getting used to them, I would recommend doing it. Occasionally on the test, I'll offer a bonus point if you show that you check them. Depending, or I may not do it on all of them, but I may do it on some of them. Also, the ones that are a special type, if you recognize that it's a special type and you write the special type correctly, I'll give you a bonus point as well for recognizing that. So just FYI. All right, number 6, r squared plus 15r plus 56. So again, there's nothing in front of r squared. So I need factors of 56 that add up to give me 15. Both things are positive, okay? Meaning that both of my numbers are going to be positive with my factors.
Yeah.
Okay? Trying to, as we go, talk through what you should see and what you should expect with the signs as we go. I think in the next section, I actually, if I remember correctly, I actually list out, I might have done it in Algebra 1, I don't remember, but I usually list out, like, if this is positive and this is negative, this is what happens. If this is positive, if this is negative, this is positive, this is what happens, blah, blah, blah. So, what are factors of 56?
8 and 7.
Okay, 8 and 7. See, y'all are already quickly seeing what they are.
Makes you 4 and 2.
It will work pretty well with most of the problems, especially in this section, that you'll just see right away what the factors are that give you that. The next section might not be so easy. Okay, that's where you have to try the greatest common factors because you're having another number being multiplied, so it's not always something that you just quickly see. So they're both going to be positive, so I'm going to have r squared plus, it doesn't matter, but 8r plus 7r plus 56. So what am I pulling out of the first two?
R.
R times r plus 8 out of the next two. 7. And that's going to be r plus 8. Sometimes I'm trying to remember to write it right now, but sometimes I won't write the sign if it's positive. I'll just write it like that. Don't be confused and think that, oh, she's multiplying all of this. That's not what I'm doing. I just write it that way. The technical right way is not to write it like that, but I don't know why I have it, always have, but I'll try to write the signs in at least for now. So r plus 7 times r plus 8.
It's getting easier.
Another thing I'm going to tell you is that everything isn't factorable. Okay? So you may be looking, and part of it can be because it comes down to the signs. The signs may not make it factorable. So that's why I said sometimes what happens is people will start to factor something and they'll leave it and they'll tell me that it works. But if they went back and foiled it, they'd realize their signs were wrong and there's no way to make the signs right, so it can't be factored. So if it's not factorable, you just say not factorable, can't be factored, something like that.
Just say no.
No.
All right, 8. Q squared minus 11q plus 28.
Oh, I wrote an uppercase Q. I don't know why.
Doesn't really matter technically, but. All right, factors of 28.
2 and 14.
2 and 14. Factors of 14.
Well, 7. 7 2.
Okay, 2 and 7. Okay, so that's totally fine. So 14 and 2 aren't going to work to give me this. Okay, 28 and 1 is another option. That's obviously not going to work. But I can then see that 4 and 7. Okay, 28 is positive, but this is negative, meaning both of my numbers need to be negative. Okay, so I'm going to have q squared minus 4q minus 7q plus 28. What's coming out of the first one?
Q.
Leaving me with q minus 4. Out of the second one?
Negative 7.
-7, leaving me with q minus 4. They match, so q minus 7 times q minus 4.
I'm understanding it.
All right, I'm going to let y'all try 10 really quick by yourselves, and then we'll talk about it. X squared minus 4x minus 12.
What the factor?
Oh, wait. No. Okay.
Mike already must know.
Yeah. That's done too.
It's like, I've got this.
Except I don't. What do you say, Peyton? Please.
If 12 is negative, what does that mean about the signs of the numbers?
It must be negative, it must be positive.
One's going to have to be negative and one's going to have to be
Yeah,
positive.
I already messed up. I messed up.
Okay. And because the 4 is negative, well, even if the 4 is positive, it would matter which one you choose to be negative and which one you choose to be positive when you find the numbers that it's supposed to be.
I'll have to do it all over again. Okay.
What did you do wrong?
Okay.
You forget 12 is negative.
Well, I did that.
Why you did that?
And I didn't use the 3 in the factors.
I didn't do that for you.
I did. I used the 2 2's. I didn't even make that. I did -2 and +2.
Well, 4 and 3 isn't gonna work.
No, 1 plus 3 plus 2 plus 6.
Yeah, it's rare that there's two options that will work.
Why don't you just do 6 times 2?
I think I did it right.
6 times 2 equals 12.
I think.
Exactly. It's
We're
the,
trying
they're
to
factors
equal-
of
How are we gonna
12.
say the answer?
I know.
They're factors of 12.
And I'm not going that way, Peyton, okay? I'm struggling.
How are you doing it? So then I just made the 6 negative, so then it'll be a negative.
I just made it more complicated.
Definitely did. And I thought I was bad at that. Oh, gosh, until we get to the ones where there's something in front of them. And I'm like, oh.
Don't start. I'm gonna solve it, okay?
I'm giving you time. I have it worked on the iPad. It's just I froze it.
Just give up and use 6 and 2.
That's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
It's
I thought you were
Please.
still going through with your method.
a process.
It's a-
Okay, I got it.
I checked it.
I'm gonna
Well,
give
that's
Josh.
guys.
I'm gonna give Josh another second.
Shut up, Peyton.
Where is Nathan?
Taking his test from last week.
Oh, look at the hammerheads.
I can give y'all's back
I got
tomorrow.
It. Okay.
Yeah.
I got
Just, you know, yeah.
What'd you get?
the right answer.
What do we get?
Oh, I got.
X,
X
minus
minus
2 times x plus 6.
Huh?
No.
I got x minus 6, x plus 2.
Well, then I
Yeah.
got it wrong.
Good.
But
Did you
that.
check it?
Dude, I had it right the first time, but I changed it.
Well, because I was thinking.
Spoiled
and I was
to
like,
check.
Wait, I gotta switch the numbers.
No excuse to get factoring wrong.
Plus, I didn't know you could have like 2 different sums.
I almost
Oh.
put the negative 6 first, and I was like, wait. Let me just switch that
Inside.
around to make the 2 first. Makes more sense.
Wait, no, I got it right. Okay. Ooh, you got it
Okay,
right.
again, if you didn't get it right, foil to check.
I've got
Always,
X
always,
plus
always.
2, and then X minus 2.
No, I
It doesn't
did
matter
right.
which order they're written
I know,
in.
but I
Yeah.
wrote backwards.
As long as the signs are right, it doesn't matter.
I thought I was wrong.
Oh my gosh, I'm so dumb.
All right, number 12.
My sign.
C squared minus 9c minus 18. All right, I want y'all to try this one
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna get it wrong, but well,
Oh,
don't think
believe
like
in
me.
yourself.
And remember, when you get your answer, foil to check.
Please.
No. Wait a minute.
That's not right. Oh, I got it.
Wait.
Can the factored numbers both be negative, or can it only be one positive, one negative? Like if, when you factor
can
it.
both.
Oh wait.
It
no,
doesn't
that's-
matter.
Oh, I,
It can
It's
be-
based on the signs.
No, I'm good with that.
Oh, it's a C.
That's why I don't match. I put C and then I put 6x.
Me too.
I always want to put
Like
x
that
as
don't
my
make sense.
variable, no
I
matter
know,
what it
yeah.
says.
That's what.
I'm like,
Because
wait,
that's
why
what
is
we're
this not
used
matching?
to.
Like, why is this not matching? Oh, yeah.
It doesn't work. Why does it not work?
Because I put an X.
Oh yeah, it'll be common if I use other letters. Y'all will switch them inevitably. I'll switch them myself
Oh my
on the
gosh,
thing.
I did it
I don't
again.
think I did.
So if you switch them, then it's fine.
I didn't do it right.
That's
Well, it didn't work.
Wait a minute.
That didn't work.
Didn't no, it didn't.
No, because then if you do the right one,
Wait.
it's
Oh
only the-
shoot. That's wrong.
But it.
The bell's, well, the bell probably.
Is
Well,
it
I'm gonna
not
say that it's not gonna
factorable?
ring, and then
Is
it.
it not backwards?
Because the signs.
I don't think it's
The
factorable.
signs mess it up.
The signs mess it up.
I knew it.
Because one would have to be positive and one would have to be negative, so there are no
Yeah, but-
factors that
Yeah,
work.
and then to make it
None.
-9, you would have to do both -6 and both -3 would be
Still,
18.
0.
I'm like, hold up. Hold up.
I was seeing if y'all would figure out. That's why I made the comment early about the not factorable thing to see if. Because I was like, if I say it right before we do the problem, you're going to be like, well, duh.
But if you don't say it at all, I'm gonna be like, oh, what?
You're going to be like, what did I do wrong? So, yeah. All right, so that's just the basic type. Okay, tomorrow we'll look at the special types and then
I'm the
one or
special
two
type.
more.
Okay.
And then also what happens if it tells you something like
I'm done.
solve the equation. So you set it like, so it's set like this would be set equal to 0. Okay, so we'll talk about that. It's really easy, like really, really easy.
I'm out.
We'll do that tomorrow, and then you'll have the whole rest of the class after that to do the problems and stuff like
I don't know
that.
if I want to ever do this again. I'm just.
Well,
That
you
one,
gotta do it.
number 10 just
Um,
messed me up.